So I'm in the middle of reading The Hole, and it is kind of disturbing, but not in the way that you would think it's disturbing, but in the way that they're treating this man who is paralyzed. I just read a part where the caretaker's son is just like yelling at him and berating him and being like, stop whistling at us to do things for you, when the guy can't even talk and he's almost completely paralyzed. And my husband doesn't realize I'm filming as he's over there just chopping his potatoes. And he's like, what do I say about this? And his caretaker also like takes advantage of him, and like when she rolls him over to massage his back and stuff to keep bed sores from happening, she's like smacking his butt. When she has to change like his catheter, she's like touching him inappropriately. You always hear about these situations with caretakers taking care of either the elderly or people who cannot speak up for themselves, who have disabilities, who can't talk, or just don't have the words to say. And that's like a very scary thing to be thinking about, how these people in vulnerable positions are being abused in this way. And it's showing up in this book, and it's very sad and disturbing and heartbreaking to read about. And I was also thinking earlier in the book, before he leaves the hospital, he's talking about how normally he would be able to put like probiotics in his food and always stayed very healthy and ate very healthy, and now they're just like shoving a tube down his throat and force feeding him this like formula because that's all he can eat. He can't eat actual food. And the loss of something like your limbs, whether you actually physically lose a limb or you're paralyzed, that's a huge loss in your life. But you don't think about like the tiny things that this affects, like him coming out of a coma after like 4 or 5 months and then not being able to talk or anything like that. He's lost so many big things, including the loss of his wife in this tragic car accident. But even just little things like not being able to control what you're putting in your body, or just adding probiotics to your food, or again, when he's at home and has the caregiver, the way she's taking care of him or mistreating him, and the way the son is just like yelling in his face and just being a horrible, terrible person.
Looks like a book.
So I was trying to talk about The Hole earlier yesterday, but it was distracting because my husband was there and he was like, "What? You're talking to me? What's going on?" And then I was just like conscious about talking to myself with my husband standing right there. Anyways, I finished The Hole yesterday, and it was good. I marked it a 4-star because sometimes it felt like it was dragging a little bit for such a short book. Like, it was only 178 pages on my phone, but at some points it did feel like it was dragging a little bit. This man, Ogie, is in a car accident where his wife dies and he is left paralyzed, and his mother-in-law ends up taking care of him. The disturbing thing about this book is that the things happening in it and the abuse happening to him is stuff that happens to people all around the world. Like, this book takes place in Korea, written by a Korean author and everything. And I read it for the prompts for Fortnight, Frights, I think an Asian read by like an Asian author, and it has green on the cover because it's got a tree, and the main character is disabled, or yeah, the book starts with him waking up from a coma. And then you see a lot of his past. Like, he wakes up from the coma, realizes that his wife is dead, and he is paralyzed, and the only person he has left is his mother-in-law, and the father-in-law had passed away like 3 years before that, so she's a widower. So she's a widow and he's a widower. And they only have each other left in the world. I completely lost my train of thought. Anyways, the most disturbing parts of this book are definitely where he is being abused by the caregiver. Now, I don't think the caregiver was like a trained professional. She was just somebody who needed a job, and they needed like a live-in caretaker, so that's like really expensive and hard to find like a professional registered nurse to do that kind of job. So they just get like somebody like me kind of thing that doesn't know anything about actually taking care of people with such serious injuries and disabilities, and she's left to take care of him. And she is abusive, and she touches him inappropriately, like she has to change his catheter and then wipe down his private parts, as well as like he has like a pan to go to the bathroom in. And so she's cleaning all that stuff, and of course like she does have to touch down there, and that's like normal for this situation, but she does like play with him and just touch his parts inappropriately. And even when she's like changing the sheets on his bed and stuff like that, she's like kind of like pushing up against him and has like her boobs on him and without wearing a bra, things like that. So there is some abuse happening there, but she's also just kind of like incompetent, and she's a live-in caretaker, so her older son, he's like in his 20s, is coming over and like drinking all the booze, and then he's like physically abusing Ogie, and it's really, really just disturbing. So I don't want to talk about it too much because it is a short book, so I don't want to give away too many spoilers or anything, but you hear like he wakes up from the coma and realizes that he's dead, and his wife is dead, and he's paralyzed. And then you just get a lot of background information, like him meeting his in-laws for the first time, and a little bit of background information on the mother-in-law. And then you learn about things with his wife and his relationship with his wife and how that's progressed over, I think they've been married 15 years. And then you learn about his career and how he got to where he is in his career and his field of study, and he's a professor and like all this stuff. So there's just a lot. You don't see so much what's happening in the present time. It's more things that he's thought about in the past. When you do see the present time, there's a lot of abuse happening, and it's very, very disturbing. And then the end is just, I don't know. His mother-in-law is just digging like this giant hole in the front yard, and you don't know why. And then at the end, you do find out why she's digging this hole, I guess. Kinda. But it's just, I don't know. It was weird, but it was good. And I enjoyed it. But yeah, I gave it a 4-star because there are some parts that just kind of dragged, and it took me a few days just to read such a short book. Anyways, for the Fortnight Frights, there was 3 books to read, like group reads, and one of them was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. So I just finished this today. I listened to a little bit of the audiobook, which was good, but I majority read it. I posted on Twitter, I was like, what did I just read? Like, seriously. I've heard really good things about this book, and I heard an Own Voices review of this book by Native Lady Warrior Reads. I believe I'll link her channel down below. And she really loved this book and thought it was really funny, as well as, like, graphic, and, like, it's a horror book. But there was just some funny moments in it, and there was a few moments where I did laugh, and the jokes kind of cross over. You don't necessarily need to be native to understand the jokes. But there's one where the one character, he, like, has a running, like, he thinks about, like, headlines or what the newspaper would say about his day or whatever. And the one is, like, the headline is, Indian man first to clean up after himself. And I just thought that was funny. And not saying that men aren't good at cleaning up after themselves, but it could just say first man to clean up after himself. But my husband, I just want to throw it out there, my husband is amazing, and he cleans a lot, and he likes things like way more clean. I can handle a lot more mess than he can. Let's just put it that way. But he's good at cleaning up after himself. But just you can see me recording. You can just, his little headlines and stuff are funny. But this book is like so messed up and terrifying. These 4 guys, when they're younger, like in their 20s, go for a hunt, and it's like the last day of the season that they can hunt, and then they end up going to the elder section where they are not allowed to hunt, but there's a whole bunch of elk in this like ravine area, and they just start like shooting because there's like a whole herd of elk down there, and they kill like 9 elk, and one of the elk is too young and should not have been shot. And well, I don't want to give away too many spoilers, and this is a revenge story, and it is gruesome and dark. And just, I am learning that, like, if this is horror, I, like, when it comes to one of 2020's buzziest horror novels. When it comes to horror, like movies, like slasher movies and stuff, I don't watch them. They scare me. They freak me out. I don't like them. And I don't like the blood and the gore and stuff either. But like this novel didn't scare me so much, like give me nightmares or just like these scary like jump scares or whatever. There is some really gory and graphic parts in this book that you could have like in a movie, but when I'm learning about horror, because I don't read horror because horror movies scare me, but horror books I find more just graphic and disturbing. They're more disturbing than actually like scary to me. I think I gave this one a 4 out of 5 as well. I think the pacing was really good. I really enjoyed the book. It's just not my typical kind of read, and I would have never picked it up if it was not for Fortnight Frights. But I am glad that I did. And yes, I will link the Native Lady Warrior down below, and you can see her review of this as well, because that's like an Own Voices review. She's from America. I believe she's in Arizona. Definitely look up trigger warnings if you don't like death of animals and of people, and especially like brutal graphic deaths too. Not just like, it's about hunters. It's not just them shooting an elk and you're like, oh, that poor elk or something. Like, they're out there hunting and just doing what's part of their heritage and what's normal. And I have hunters in my family and hunters like in the church that I go to, including the pastor, and he talks about hunting and stuff like that. And especially with the natives, they're hunting to sustain themselves. Like, that's how they eat. I'm not a hunter. I am an animal lover. I'm not a vegan, but if I had to hunt my own food, I would be at least a vegetarian. I don't like hunting, but that stuff reading that in a book doesn't bother me, but there are some very, very gruesome deaths and killing of animals, and not just elk like hunting, but also like your family dog. So it's very gruesome, and I would definitely look up trigger warnings for that stuff if that bothers you, because I had no idea of that going into this. So, but it is fiction, and it was a ride, that's for sure. And I also mentioned that I picked up White is for Witching at my library, but I won't be able to get to this before the end of October. Today is October 30th. It is 1 month until my birthday! Oh my gosh, time is going by so fast. I'm holding this upside down. Helen Oyemi, White is for Witching. The author of the Icarus Girl. So I haven't read that one or heard of this author before, but I kind of want to read it still, even though I won't get to it by the end of this readathon. I still want to read it. It's not too long. But after all this like horror and gore and extremely disturbing stuff, I need something lighthearted and not graphic. It's 227 pages. Me and my husband also watched Pan's Labyrinth last night, and it was good, and it's all in, if anyone hasn't seen it yet, it's all in Spanish, so make sure you have a subtitled one. The one we watched it on Amazon Prime, and it's subtitled, but the speaking is all in Spanish. And the group book for BlackOweenAthon and the live show for that is also on Halloween, is James Baldwin's Giovanni's Room, and I just got it in the mail today. So I just started it, and check out my new bookmark. I'm on page 6, so check out my new bookmark. Keep on reading. Until next time, keep on reading. And this is from Break Even Books, illustrated by Miss Draws 19. But this is from Eric at Break Even Books. So I will link his stuff down below too. The bookmark was $3.50 free shipping. And yeah, it's a really nice bookmark. It's that nice like matte feel that I like. And it's a really nice, it looks like super red in the video here, but it's actually I don't want to say a dollar red, but it is a dollar color, but I kind of like it. Yeah, it's just like a really, really nice bookmark. So, support local people. Local as in, like, he's East Coast and I'm West Coast, but he's Canadian, I'm Canadian, so. I'm hoping the live show for this is tomorrow at 3 p.m., so I am hoping to get more of this reading done, but I've been really tired today, and just finishing The Only Good Indians, but yeah, that's it. That's my updates for now. And I will talk to you later. So I'm just here to do a quick wrap up of what I read for Fortnight Frights and the end of BlackOweenAthon. So I talked about reading the whole, and I really enjoyed it, even though I felt like it had dragged a little bit. It still had some really interesting conversations about the abuse that happens to those that are in vulnerable positions. And the end was very interesting. Let's just say that. One thing I wanted to mention was Ogie's wife. At the beginning of the book, like I said, he wakes up from a coma. His wife has died in a car accident, but throughout the chapters, you learn a little bit about the past and all the stuff that led up to the accident. His wife never fully accomplished everything she wanted to be. She was a journalist. She went into school to become a writer, and she worked at one little magazine and then another and another, and she never stuck with any kind of job, never wrote the book that she signed up for. She was supposed to write this book, and then for whatever reason decided she didn't want to write it anymore and gave back, like she had an advance for it and everything, and she gave that back and just went on with her life. And she never accomplished what she'd set out before she sadly passed away. And I feel kind of like I really resonated with Ogie's wife. I don't have any career. I never went to college or university or any secondary school outside of I completed high school, and that was it. And I took my level 1 course in childcare so that I could work at a daycare, and like that was it. When I stopped work to stay home as a stay-at-home mom, when I go back to work after my son starts full-time school next year, I will probably have to go back to work, and I have no career to go back to. No kind of job. I just am applying. I would be applying for just regular work, like as a cashier or something, or fast food or something like that. Nothing wrong with those kind of jobs. Of course, we need people to be working in those kind of positions. I've worked as a cashier before, and I enjoyed it. Nothing wrong with those jobs, obviously. I'm just saying, like, I don't have any word to go back to specifically. I feel like I've never accomplished anything in life. I've never reached any goals that I've set out for. I am writing a parenting book, and I feel like I am the last person in the world who could write this specific book because my kids and my dog don't listen to me at all. And how can you write a book about parenting and getting your kids to listen, and how raising kids is like training dogs when you don't know how to train dogs and your kids are wild? I don't know. I've wanted to do things like go to school for things like a massage therapist, kind of interested me. My dad said I should be an accountant, but that didn't really interest me. As a kid, I wanted to be a vet or a vet tech, but I am severely allergic to animals, so that's kind of out of my hands. But I also thought like working with marine animals would be really cool. Like, I just like animals, but never went anywhere with it. Never had the college experience, nothing. And I feel like I have no passion in my life. I used to have passions for animals, for marriage, for parenting, for God and Christianity, and just sharing my faith and what I believe God is telling me and what I'm learning from the scriptures. I used to have a lot of passions in my life that have all just fizzled out and have gone nowhere, and it's really frustrating. I see all these youngins on YouTube in their like late teens, early 20s, and just doing things that they are so passionate about and going to school, and it's really awesome to see that. And it's kind of depressing for myself because I'm like, where's my passion? What am I supposed to be doing? What am I made for? So I kind of felt like I resonated with Ogie's wife in the sense that we only got to see what Ogie had to say about her. This scarf that my daughter got me for Christmas a couple years ago. We only see his wife through his eyes. We don't get to hear what she had to say, but from what he had to say, I kind of resonate with her. Anyways, the last book I read, which I finished November 1st, I wasn't able to finish it quite on Halloween Day, which sucks, but that's okay. I finished it November 1st, was James Baldwin, Giovanni's Room. This covered the prompts for BlackOweenAthon to read the group book, which was this one. It is also a Black author, and it's also LGBTQIA+, which was another prompt. Black author and LGBT was a prompt in Fortnite Frights as well. So this covered a few prompts over both readathons. And this book, I wouldn't say it's like my new favorite author or book, but I do want to read a couple of his other books. He's written quite a bit, actually. He died the year I was born. He wrote Go Tell It on the Mountain, which seems like might be an interesting one to read. I don't know what it's about. I'm just basing it off the title. But If Beale Street Could Talk is supposed to be a good one. Even though I didn't really super connect with this book, I would be interested in reading other books from him. I thought this book was really sad though, and Giovanni, I felt, I don't want to give away too much, but he was running away from something very tragic in his past, and obviously had a lot of issues surrounding that because of the tragedy in his past. And David, the main character in this, really hated himself. There was a lot of self-hate there, and in the live show they were talking about how selfish David was, and he was, but I think a lot of it does stem also from his self-hate, because from what I gather in the book, he is bisexual, or he's gay but just trying to live with a woman and not accept that he is gay. So I don't know if he's bisexual. So I don't know if David considers himself bisexual and genuinely likes both guys and women. He just hasn't found the right woman yet, or if he's gay and just trying to deny that part of him by being with a woman. Because when he's with a man, he talks about how disgusting he is and how terrible he is. And when he's with a woman, he talks about how much he hates himself. So there was a lot of self-hate in this, and it was very sad, and I just wanted him to find peace within himself and to not hate himself with whichever way he decided to go with his identity and in his love life. There just seemed to be a lot of hate. And Giovanni was also a very broken man. This is about two very broken people coming together. And when they say hurting people hurt people, and these two were very broken and caused a lot of pain in each other's lives, I believe. And it was really sad. And it didn't end on like the happiest note ever. It was interesting. I definitely want to read more from James Baldwin and see what else he has to say about these kind of topics. Anyways, I had so much fun doing BlackOweenAthon. So thank you to Bree from the Locked Booktician and for doing Fortnight Frights. So thank you to Seiji from The Artisan Geek for hosting these two readathons. It was so much fun. And I will see you next time. Bye!